But let's talk now to a couple of comedians, Philip Simon and Rachel Creeger, two stand-up comedians who've been axed from the Edinburgh Fringe because apparently bar staff feel unsafe around them. Why? Because they're Jewish. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
This is quite an extraordinary story, even for the Edinburgh Fringe, where I have been and performed, believe it or not, much to the chagrin of some of the people there. But when did you find out about this, first of all?
We found out a couple of weeks ago. We should be clear, we weren't axed from the whole Fringe, just two venues at the Fringe. One of the venues we both had a show in, separate shows, and then the second venue was just my show. But they are two venues that we have been in and performing in for the past few years, so have always been allies, have always been very friendly to us and very welcoming to us.
Right.
We found out about the first venue on July 18th. And then I found out about my second venue, putting my other show, which has no Jewish content whatsoever. That one was pulled on the following Friday.
Right. I mean, is there such a thing as Jewish content? I mean, if you're Jewish and you're making fun of something, you could be considered to be a Jewish comedian. But I mean, it's just comedy, isn't it? Does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue my first show that got cancelled, Jew-O-Rama, has more likelihood of being Jewish content. But it was...
well, yeah, but it's still just comedy content, isn't it? I mean, it's you happen to be a Jew, you make fun of Jews, presumably. I mean, you know, what's the big deal?
It's not always about making fun of Jews. It's Jews using their culture and tradition as part of their comedic style.
Right.
My show was called Ultimate Jewish Mother. And again, it's not a political show in any way. It's like having a lovely, funny hug.
Yeah.
That's really all there was to it.
Well, there's a great history of Jewish comedy, isn't there? You know, when you think about it, going all the way back to some of the beginnings of the comedians in America. So how was it communicated to you?
We had a phone call from the CEO of the Free Fringe, which is the organisation we have been performing with for quite a few years, in the morning, saying that the owner of the venue had got in touch to say there was some concerns with the staff and to double check about what security arrangements we had in place. Because, as I'm sure you're aware, there's been a rise in anti-Semitism in the UK, and there are organisations that work to support different kinds of groups with just keeping a weather eye to make sure that everybody is safe and well. So we had support from such an organisation. It wasn't invasive. There wasn't anyone present in the venue. There wasn't anyone coming to check on things. It was helpline numbers if there was an issue, and police patrols that would have happened anyway in those streets, just coinciding with the timings of the beginning and ending of Jewish shows during the Fringe, and not just our shows, by the way. And he said, we had the same thing last year. He said the owner wanted reassurance that the same measures were in place. I was able to give him reassurance, and then he called back later in the afternoon and said that actually both shows had to leave that venue. They weren't willing to host our shows this year. They said that venue staff were intimidated by the idea and frightened by the idea that we were people who might need an extra secure eye. He complained that there was extra graffiti last year that no one had mentioned to us, that they felt was a concern. And they also suggested that we'd had some kind of a vigil for an IDF soldier in one of the shows, which didn't happen, and they did backtrack quite quickly with that particular claim.
Right. So is it a case of them trying to use the security angle as an excuse, really, where they're saying, oh, we might have a problem with the venue because people might turn up and start harassing you or something like that, rather than actually saying what they really think, which is that they don't want you there?
We just don't know. We can only go by our own past experiences, which is that having been in that venue for many years, Jew-O-Rama started off there. I think we were back there in 2019 as our first year. Yeah. And there've been no problems that we noticed. The same security measures, as Rachel said, were in place last year. I didn't even notice it was happening. One day I clocked somebody and went, oh, I forgot that was happening. So it's not in your face security. And they are a venue that does have a lot of security anyway. They're a fantastic central Edinburgh pub, a music venue. They're not without their own bouncers.
Right.
The concern about what might happen based against, for example, a rowdy Saturday night in an everyday pub is quite astonishing that we'd be considered more of a risk.
Yeah, right. So you're still going to the Fringe, but you're just not going to be doing those particular places.
We have options. So I'm still going. Well, we're up here now anyway, but I'm doing a children's show, which I was already booked in to do, that I've been doing for a few years. It's called Schools Out Comedy Club, and that is still happening at 12:30 between the 1st and the 17th. We are doing lots of spots on other people's shows, which is what you do at the Fringe anyway. You spots in order to publicise your other shows, and we are both talking to other venues about the possibility of having our shows in some form. The support we've received has been phenomenal from comedians, from well-wishers. If ever we thought there was going to be indifference to what's happened to us from the comedy community, we have been absolutely proven wrong. It's been wonderful.
And I'm part of a project here called the Glitter Project, run by Funny Women, which is supporting women and non-binary voices at the Fringe. And so that's a big part of why I've still come up despite all of these issues. I wouldn't have let that project down, and as well as the spots Philip mentioned, and hoping that my show will be reinstated in alternative provisions over the next few days.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I mean, it's just insane, isn't it? Just mad. But anyway, thanks very much for talking to us. Philip Simon, Rachel Creeger, both available for hire and both available to see at the Edinburgh Fringe, and parts of it which have not gone completely barking mad.